الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Before we mention the last point of the 20 points in the book of Tadhim Al-Ilm, which is in the subject of حفظ الوقت في العلم, to guard one's time and the importance of time with ilm. And I would like, inshallah ta'ala, for this one to go through it word by word, inshallah ta'ala. So it's Saturday, inshallah, we have a little bit more time. Inshallah, we'll finish in time, inshallah ta'ala. But before we start, a reminder for myself and everyone, when it comes to whatever subject we make, one of the things to help us to have the ability to do it, the more the person submits himself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the more strength he gets. And this is something that should be mentioned all the time. And that's why لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله is كنز من كنوز الجنة, is a treasure of Jannah. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. And we say it after حي على الصلاة, we say it all the time. And it's a great way of making dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If a person wants to do something and he feels like he's unable, or it's overwhelming, or it's difficult, and we're all weak as human beings. So we seek help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the more the person turns away from his own strength, as far as his heart is concerned, he detaches himself from his own thinking that he has any ability, and to rely upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fully, because everything is by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And also another important subject, which is kathratul istighfar, making lots of istighfar and seeking forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Prophet ﷺ said in the hadith in Sahih Muslim, إِنَّهُ لَيُغَانُ عَلَى قَلْبِي وَإِنِّي لَأَسْتَغْفِرُ اللَّهَ فِي الْيَوْمِ 100 مرة. وإني, that indeed I, يُغَانُ عَلى قَلْبِي, my heart, al-ghayn or al-ghaym is the same thing. Al-ghaym is the clouds. So something تغشى القلب, something that covers the heart. My heart gets covered. And what the Prophet ﷺ meant by this, he's the best man ever, ﷺ, meaning the normal thing of a human being, being human. And that is the heart gets covered sometimes, meaning that a person is busy with their worldly matters, things of that nature. Or, for example, going to the bathroom to relieve oneself, where the dhikr is not to be said then, and things like this. وَإِنِّي لَأَسْتَغْفِرُ اللَّهِ, and indeed I make istighfar, seek forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the day 100 times. Istighfar from what? Not just from sins, from the fact that the heart can get attached to the dunya, which is the normal thing for human beings. So making istighfar to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala definitely is a mean of help and purification of one's heart. حفظ الوقت, to guard the time, which is something that the people of knowledge mention all the time. And this is clearly stated in the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, and the evidences of that are so much. And it's enough for the believers to see, or for anyone with reason to see, that we are nothing but time. We are nothing but time. The more time passes, the more part of us passes away. So we keep on passing away what we are, till we all return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We are nothing but time. So time is the most important and the most precious thing in our life to use and to utilize for the most precious thing, which is, for example, seeking knowledge and the ibadah of Allah. And the real wasteful person is the one that wastes his time in nothing, let alone be in sins, wal-'iyadhu billah. So even when a person wastes his time is in something that it's not going to be benefit him in the hereafter, it will be a source of regret. And the more the person seeks knowledge, the more that he will be able to use his time in the most effective way to do the best of the deeds, with ilm, of course. And even in the normal ways of a person resting or taking time for the permissible matters that fits the nature of the human beings, he will get rewarded for it, and he won't regret it if it's done in the proper way. So he says, Hafidhahullah, إذا كان العلم أشراف مطلوب. The ilm, it's like things lead to another, and everything makes perfect sense based on the evidences from the Quran and the Sunnah. Since, therefore. And this is how we develop our own way of thinking also. Since Al-Ilm, and we agreed upon this, that this is the most honorable of anything that a person seeks. If someone doesn't have that belief, then this is not the right gathering for him to be in. The most valuable thing for a person to seek in this life is Al-Ilm. So since that's the case, and then you have another given here that you have to build an action upon. وَالْعُمْرُ يُطْوَى كَجَلِيدٍ يَذُوبُ. Al-Umr, the life, يُطْوَى, get folded and stays away and goes away like the snow when it melts. This is how the life is, like the snow melts. So if these two things are known, the ilm is the most valuable thing, and life does not stop, keeps on going away like a snow melts. Therefore, فَعَيْنُ الْعَقْلِ حِفْظُ الْوَقْتِ فِي. عَيْنُ الْعَقْلِ, the core of one's reason and one's wisdom and everything is to حِفْظُ الْوَقْت, to guard the time in this life, and to use it in the most valuable thing ever, which is al-ilm. And if someone is not even knowing what ilm is, ilm with amal, ilm with action, not ilm only, because this is again the definition of al-ilm, not just any information. It's the ilm that causes and brings the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the heart and makes the person steadfast upon the deen of Allah and changes the entire world as a result of that ilm. وَالْخَوْفُ مِنْ تَقَضِّيهِ بِلَا فَائِدَةٍ. And as a result of that, the person would fear al-khawf min taqaddih, like from qada, the fear of losing the time without a benefit, that the time passes with no benefit whatsoever. والسؤال عنه يوم القيامة يحملني وإياك على المبالغة في رعايته. And the fact that we will be asked about time in the day of judgment carries me and yourself to be extreme in making sure that we guard our time. And we know that لن تزول قدم عبد, the foot of a person would not depart from the day of judgment till he's asked about four things. And in some of the hadith, two things with regards to time. عن عمره فيما أفناه, his lifetime, how he أفناه, الفناء is when something is lost, how he passed it. And then وعن شبابه فيما أبلاه, عن شبابه, his youth, his young years, how did he also use it? How did he utilize the years that he was healthy and he was focused more and things like this? So two things with regards to the part of the entire life in general, and when a person having the strength. And as-shabab is not necessarily from this age to that age, right? Yes, it's in general, it's when a person is young, but also refers to when a person has what the young people they have, meaning the strength, the ability to do things, the ability to seek knowledge, the ability to apply things and to focus and so on. So all of that, one leads to the other. قال ابن الجوزي في صيد خاطره. And you would hear things in these just one page that this is mentioned in, or 2 pages, that you might sound like an extreme way of guarding one's time. But one of the benefits of it is that we would see that this ummah is the greatest ummah ever. This ummah of the Prophet ﷺ is the greatest nation. We have in the ummah examples, the people that reach this level of diligency and determination that you won't find the like of it anywhere. So that's why we need to always connect ourselves to this ummah of the Prophet ﷺ and the early generations of Islam. And if it sounds extreme to us, it does not make us have that feel of inability. How can we be like them? This is too much, right? It's to benefit from it that it increases our zeal, even if we don't get to the level, but to see the importance of it, inshaAllah ta'ala. So Ibn al-Jawzi said in صيد خاطره ينبغي للإنسان أن يعرف شرف زمانه. It's a must for the person to know the honor of his time, the greatness of his time. This is a great thing for a person to be alive, for a person to be able to be existing on the face of earth. وقدر وقته, and the value of his time. فلا يضيع منه لحظة في غير قربة. So he does not waste لحظة, second, the smallest amount of time without qurbah, without something that gets him closer and closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. ويقدم فيه الأفضل فالأفضل من القول والعمل. And that's why he would put forward الأفضل فالأفضل, the best, then what's right after that, and so on, from speech and actions. And no one can ever attain this except with ilm. So many good deeds are out there, so many things to be warned against from bad deeds, and so many things in our life. What's the priorities in our life? What to do first, and then second, and things like this. All of that is with the ilm of the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even with worldly matters. And the concern of it is a good deed by itself. Just to be concerned that how can I use my time in the most effective way so that nothing is regretful in the day of judgment. ومن هنا, and because of this, عظمت رعاية العلماء الوقت. Ulama, they exalted so much the importance of time. And they knew that people would come and steal that most valuable thing from them. As we said, الطباع سرق. Someone doesn't care about his time. He likes to waste his time. And you, if you're someone that you guard your time, he's going to come and steal from your time. He comes at his free time and he wants to, from you, to waste your time like him. So you have to pay attention. Even if people get upset with you sometimes in their judgment, everyone would run away from one another. So that's why the importance of it, it doesn't have to be necessarily that everybody understands this. But those who are upon ilm and seeking knowledge, they should be together in this matter. They don't waste each other's time, but rather they invest in each and other's, everyone's time to use it in the most perfect way. To the extent of which that some of the people of knowledge, they said, like Muhammad ibn Abd al-Baqi al-Bazzaz, he said, ما ضيعت ساعة من عمري في لهو أو لعب. I did not waste an hour of my life in lahu, lahu, amusement or things of waste, or la'ib, playing, being playful without a benefit like this. He did not waste an hour in his life in this. وقال أبو الوفاء بن عقيل الذي صنف كتاب الفنون في 800 مجلد. And this is by itself is a subject to think of. Imam ibn Aqil, his book Al-Funun in 800 volumes. He made his book. He says, إني لا يحل لي أن أضيع ساعة من عمري. It is not permissible for me that I would waste an hour of my life. وبلغت بهم الحال أن يقرأ عليهم حال الأكل. Again, we're talking about those who are taking the most special and the best of all levels of actions, which is the ilm. It reached them in such a state that people would recite unto them. There's no time. So people would learn from them and recite to them even hal al-akl when they're eating. And that's not disrespecting the ilm for some individuals, because there's no other time else to eat except like this. فلقد كان أحمد بن سليمان البلقاسي المتوفى عن 28 سنة يقرأ القراءات في حال أكله. The people would say the قراءات while he's eating, خوفا من ضياع وقته في غيره, so that he does not waste any other time in his life. فكان أصحابه يقرؤون عليه ويتناول مأكله ومشربه, to the extent of which when he's eating and drinking. And some of these examples, you can see some of it in those who are present in our time, especially when people are in need of them. Like one of them, and I saw them personally, where especially with the qira'at, they would come to them from the east and the west, and they reciting to them the different qira'at of the Quran. They wake up in the morning, after Fajr, after the dhikr, they sit in their position, and they stay till Isha, just people reading the Quran to them and perfecting the recitation to them. بل كان يقرأ عليهم وهم في دار الخلاء. Even some of them, even if they go to relieve themselves, they're still reading outside for them. فكان ابن تيمية الجد إذا دخل الخلاء لقضاء الحاجة قال لبعض من حوله اقرأ في هذا الكتاب وارفع صوتك. They would hear it from a loud voice outside. And وتجلت هذه رعاية الوقت عند القوم رحمهم الله في معالم عدة لم تبلغها الحضارات الإنسانية. That's what he's saying. They reached a state where no civilization before did this. There's no such a thing in any other civilization like the Muslims. So again, so that nobody comes after the dars and says, that doesn't make sense. That's too much, whatever there is. Just be patient with it, inshallah. There's no like of it. And they were not, yes, they're not the entire ummah like this, but it shows the concern and the determination that these people had, that it goes beyond their physical capabilities. So the examples of how they use their time. منها كثرة دروسهم. And people are different in different ways of doing things. Their durus, some of them, lots of durus, lots of lectures and teaching the people. As Imam al-Nawawi رحمه الله كان يقرأ كل يوم 12 درسا على مشايخه. That he would read 12 dars to his مشايخ. That means he's learning 12 dars a day. والشوكاني صاحب نيل الأوطار الإمام الشوكاني رحمه الله تبلغ دروسه في اليوم والليلة 13 درسا 13 درس in the day and the night. منها ما يأخذه عن مشايخه, some he takes from his مشايخ, his شيوخ, ومنها ما يأخذه عنه تلامذته, and he has his students, he teaches them. And that's what the alim, he does not quit learning to teach. He keeps on learning. And everyone does not have an elder to take from. He is wasting his life. So, and this is also the ways of the mashayikh. They would learn and they would teach. Even if they reach a high level of knowledge, this is how they are. They don't quit learning, and they would teach others. He says, وأربى محمود الألوسي صاحب التفسير عليهم جميعا فقد كان يدرس في اليوم 24 درسا. He used to teach 24 درس a day. ولما اشتغل بالتفسير والإفتاء نقصت إلى 13 درسا. When he was busy with the tafsir, writing his book of tafsir and giving ifta and fatwas and so on, the durus went down to 13 dars only. And he says, ثم رأيت في ترجمة محمد ابن أبي بكر ابن جماعة أن دروسه تبلغ في اليوم والليلة نحو 50 درسا 50 درس in some of the ترجمة. So this is when it comes to the durus, to the lectures. And of course, the lectures are because there is need of it, not just for the sake of it, right? So this is how the barakah of their time, and that this is one of the best ways of badl. When a person would give, the best thing to be given is with matters of ilm. So this is one aspect of how they use their time for this. ومنها, and this is also from the jud and generosity. From these ways also, كثرة مدروساتهم. Right? مدروساتهم, the things that they study. فقد درس ابن التبان المدونة نحو 1000 مرة. Like 1,000 times he studied المدونة. وربما وجد في بعض كتب عباس بن الفارسي بخطه درسته 1000 مرة. I studied it 1,000 times. The books that the ulama they cover, they don't finish it one time and that's the end of it. If they finish a book, they go back to it again and they study it again and they memorize it after one time after another and things like this. And even in our lifetime, you'd find, for example, someone finished the explanation of a book or teaching it 30 times. And it's big volumes of books and things like this. وكرر غالب ابن عبد الرحمن المعروف ابن عطية والد صاحب التفسير مشهور, the father of the one that have the famous تفسير ابن عطية. He repeated Sahih al-Bukhari 700 times. Repeated it 700 times. ومنها, and also from this, كثرة مكتوباتهم. Some of them would write lots of writings. فأحمد بن عبد الدائم المقدسي أحد شيوخ العلم من الحنابلة كتب بيده 1000 مجلد. He wrote with his own hand 2,000 volumes of book, and the same thing for Ibn al-Jawzi. ومنها, and from it, كثرة مقروءاتهم. Lots of things that they would read. فابن الجوزي طالع وهو بعد في الطلب 20,000 مجلد, reading 20,000 volumes of book as by Ibn al-Jawzi. And from it, كثرة شيوخهم. Lots of shuyukh and lots of scholars that they had and they taught, they learned from. فالذين جاوز عدد شيوخهم 1000 كثير. Many of them you would find in their tarajim, in their biography, they had more than 1,000 sheikh that they learned from. وأعجب ما ذكر, one of the amazing things that were mentioned, أن أبا سعد السمعاني بلغ عدد شيوخه 7,000 شيخ. 7,000 sheikh teacher that he learned from. قال ابن النجار في ذي تاريخ بغداد وهذا شيء لم يبلغه أحد. This is never heard of. And from it also كثرة مسموعاتهم. Lots of things that they listened. ومقروءاتهم, and what they read to the mashayikh. Listening from them, reading for them to be corrected and for them to learn. من التصانيف المطولة والأجزاء الصغيرة, big volumes, small volumes. فقد تعد بالآلاف المؤلفة thousands as ابن السمعاني المذكور and ابن عساكر and others. And ومنها كثرة مصنفاتهم the books that they wrote حتى عدت 1000 مصنف لجماعة من علماء هذه الأمة like عبد الملك بن حبيب عالم الأندلس وأبو الفرج ابن الجوزي. So this is all kinds of things and each one is like a rizq from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala unto them. So he says فاحفظ أيها الطالب وقتك. So this is the advice to the talib. Again here, if we're about to get into that journey of seeking knowledge, then we should guard our time and to make sure that we are greedy with our time. And the more the person gains knowledge, the more that he would be able to fulfill the rights of others according to the time, so that he's not doing something of an extreme way and undermining the rights of his own self, the rights of his parents, the rights of his spouses, children, whatever. There's different rights in this life that we need to observe. And that's why a person has to make sure that he does not ruin or undermine any of these rights, but to guard the subject of the time. And it's always mentioned with the students of knowledge, because without it, they would lose so much. They won't reach what they are objecting with matters of ilm if they're not aware of the time. And he ends with what Al-Wazir Salih ibn Hubayra, he said in his word of advice, وَالْوَقْتُ أَنْفَسُ ما عنيت بحفظه وأراه أسهل ما عليك يضيع. The waqt, time, is the most precious, what you would want to guard, the most precious thing for you to guard, to make sure that you're not wasting. وأراه أسهل ما عليك يضيع. But I see this is the easiest thing to lose is your time. So since it's the easiest thing to lose, that means we need to make sure that this is, we don't get in ghafla or forgetfulness when it comes to our time. And then he ends and gives the khatima or the conclusion to this by saying, after saying that this is the end of what is being mentioned here, so he said, فَيَا شُدَادَ الْعِلْمِ وَطُلَّابِهِ, those who have this eagerness to seek the knowledge, وَيَقُصَّادَ الْفِقْهِ وَأَرْبَابَهُ, those who seek al-fiqh, امتثلوا معاقد التعظيم, be upon this تعظيم or exalting the ilm, وأنتم تقبلون على مقاعد التعليم, while you are going forward to sit and learn. And as we said, matters of dunya, you would find all kinds of things that people do for people to exalt whatever they're studying, money-wise, status-wise, things like this. You won't find people helping you to bring this ta'zeem or exalting the ilm al-shar'i, the ilm of the Quran and the Sunnah, except very few. Because as you see, it's not something that people look up to or they exalt, or the more the iman is weak, the less people they would care about the ilm. But for someone knowing what's in the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, this is the most important thing. If they take this route of seeking knowledge of the deen of Allah, and not to be distracted by those who would take you down when it comes to this, you would find the naf', you would find the benefit of it for sure. تجد نفعه وتحمد عاقبته. You will be pleased, inshallah ta'ala, if you diligently take in this route of seeking knowledge and overlook what people might make it difficult for you. وإياكم والتهاون بها والعزوف عنها. Why this is being like pushy like this? Because again, dunya, you don't have to push too much people for it. They know the value of it, right? But when it comes to matters of the hereafter, the iman has to be there, the faith has to be strong, the certainty in the rewards from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there is the shayateen al-ins wal-jinn and one-nafs. And this is the trials, this is the fitan and the trials and the tests that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made in this life, so that anyone can, when it comes to matters of dunya, it's easy. But when it comes to the matters of the hereafter, you have to be truthful. You have to be truthful, and not just anyone would take such a way. So you would see the end of it, inshallah ta'ala, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promised. So فَإِنَّهَا مِفْتَاحُ الْعِلْمِ وَمِرْقَاتُ الْفَهْمِ. So this is the way to understand and things like this. فَشَمِّرُوا عَنْ سَاعِدِ الْجِدِّ, words after words, roll up your sleeves. لَا تُجْغَلُوا بِمَيْعَةِ الْجِدِّ. Do not think that you're upon determination what you're not. And remember the and memorize the statement of Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah. He said, طالب النفوذ إلى الله والدار الآخرة بل إلى كل علم وصناعة ورئاسة بحيث يكون رأسا في ذلك مقتدا به فيه. He says, طالب النفوذ, anyone that seeks closeness to Allah, the hereafter, but rather anyone that seeks any knowledge, any sana'a, any profession, any leadership, he's seeking to be the head of it, to be the head of whatever he's studying, whatever he's upon, and for people to follow him, because people follow those who are the head of whatever they're in. All of these people يحتاج أن يكون شجاعا مقداما, and this is the norm. He needs to be brave, and he needs to be مقدام. مقدام, go forward, don't be coward, don't think of other circumstances. If I do this, this is going to happen. What happens if I do? If you want to be the head of whatever you want to be in, you have to be shuja'an, miqdaman, and this is the ways of people, even the sinful ones. If they want to be upon something, they won't care too much about what people say, what the norm of the people is, because they have a goal, they have an objective. So imagine that this goal and this objective is, we know for sure that this is what is best, and the end of it is what is best. So don't worry too much about what people would say to you or what other things. So be brave and go forward. If you have the means, حاكما على وهمه, he has authority over his whims, the lots of thinking. No, you control this, be in charge of it. غير مقهور تحت سلطان تخيله, same meaning. Some people, they are having the qahr, they are being forced under their imagination and their whims is what leads them. Be in charge of this, rule yourself, be upon yourself, so that you do what is right, and it's all by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. زاهدا في كل ما سوى مطلوبه, turning away from anything other than what you're seeking. If you're seeking, this is your objective, this is your goal, you have to make zuhd in everything else. But if you want this and you want this and you want that, you'll be distracted. There has to be one major thing in one's life, that this is the goal. And everything else, it doesn't mean that you would turn away from it, but you would do it, but as a mean to help you to achieve your goal. And this is in the lives of the human beings, the successful ones, this is how they are. So you have to have a major thing in your life, and this is advice that we should have to ourselves, to our young ones, everyone. What is the major thing? What is the most important thing in your life? This is what you're going to give it your effort and your time and everything else should serve that for you to reach your objective. عاشقا لما توجه إليه, you should love what you're going forward to. عارفا بطريق الوصول إليه, you need to know the way to reach it, otherwise you lose. Same thing with anything in this life. If you want to be whatever, you have to know the path that would make you reach it. And not just that, والطرق القواطع عنه, you have to know what would take you away, or what try to take you away from it. These are the obstacles of this way or this path, so that when you know, you'll be able, okay, I'm expecting on the road something that would traffic, for example, so maybe I can take a detour or something like this. So when you know the way, and you know the things that would prevent you or might hinder you, then you will make actions accordingly, and all of that with ilm. This is all knowledge. And then he says, مقدام الهمة, your himma, your zeal, and we should always be reminded of having this zeal always high. ثابت الجأش, don't worry, be firm, don't be terrified or anything like this. لا يثنيه عن مطلوبه لو ملائم, one of the obstacles, لو ملائم, someone will blame you. Why would you do this? Why would you be upon this? ولا عذل عادل كثير السكون, your tranquility, you think of always what is going to help you in this. غير مائل مع لذة المدح, you don't also lean towards whatever people praise you of. Don't worry about those who will praise you, don't worry about those who would blame you. Just be focused on what you're doing. And as you know, when we were children, and I don't like to say these types of things, but when you, for example, you play in soccer, right? And when we want someone to miss from the other team, we would praise him too much, and we would say, "Be careful, he kicks the ball very hard," and he doesn't. but he gets so excited, so he kicks the ball very hard and he misses it all the time. So we say that loud. Oh, be careful, this guy is just super. He kicks it, praising him, lying. So what he does, he gets so much, he likes himself so much, so he kicks it and he loses it. So sometimes praising, when people praise one another, right, they take you away from what you're supposed to be focused upon. And also the same thing with those who will put you down and blame you of things, or you're not good, you this and that. قائما بما يحتاج إليه and take the means. Of course, the physical means, this is important for a person to take. شعاره الصبر, your sabr is or you think at all times you have patience. وراحته التعب, your rest is tiredness. You get rest in being tired. Tiredness has a ladha to it, or has a joy for those who understand it, and even people in worldly matters, they understand this. محبا لمكارم الأخلاق, you have to love being with good manners. حافظا لوقته, guarding his time. لا يخالط الناس إلا على حذر, he mixes with people only for and being warning oneself against this, not to isolate oneself and not to leave yourself to mix with whoever wants to be mixed with you, but rather you make this as a plan. This is how am I going to be with people, this is when I'm going to be alone. If you leave yourself like this, and everybody, they make their own schedule. And as I said, it's already known, if someone is doing something very important, he would not be busy with you if this is something important to him. He only comes to you when he has free time. But do you have the free time that he has? And things like this. كالطائر الذي يلتقط الحب بينهم قائما على نفسه بالرغبة والرهبة. Be with the people is like a bird. He's taken the hab, or the grains, from among the people, having the hope and the fear, so that you keep going. طامعا في نتائج الاختصاص على بني جنسه, he always seek to be the best and to do the best. Again, it's all sincere advice is not to lose, or not to be in state of loose when it comes to your senses, when it comes to your whims and thinking and things like this, and to bring all of these together. There's no way out, and this is again for those who really want to diligently seek the knowledge of the deen of Allah. He says, ملاك ذلك, to bring all of these things together. هجر العوائد, to stay away from the norms. You cannot continue to be in doing your norms and expecting that you will be like, you have to do something against the norm. That means you have to put more effort and maybe less sleep. So what? Less this, less that, so that you can focus on what you're seeking. وقطع العلائق, they always say, هجر العوائد, leave what's the norms are that would hinder you from this, and cut all the attachments to other than this. And that's why those who are upon that, people need to help them so that they're not attached to something else that would take you away from what you're seeking. So this is all what Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah, he said with regards to those who want to seek the high level of things. And once in a while, as we heard, to read, to get to know this ummah and the lineage that we have of how they had this high zeal when it comes to their ilm, when it comes to their ibadah, when it comes to their saving and their time, and things like this, so that it keeps on helping the person to be upon what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us. We'll stop here, inshallah ta'ala, even though we didn't even go through all of the things of Hilyat Talib al-Ilm. We said we're just going to mention some of the benefits in it. And that's why in this, in Hilyat Talib al-Ilm also, he talked about the time, or the waqt, or that a person should make sure that he make hifz or guard one's time. But we'll stop here, inshallah ta'ala. But then to be clear, inshallah ta'ala, starting Monday morning, inshallah, we'll have after Fajr is the tafsir from Surah Qaf to the end, but we'll take it as a way of studying. So whatever is mentioned in the lecture, but it's also part of it is memorization. So you have to make sure that it's memorized in a proper way. And if you already have it memorized, mashallah, this is good. So we'll use you to help others to memorize, inshallah. And because there's a weekly memorization, which is Saturday. Saturday is always the day where we test the memorization of the Quran that is being recited, and it's always have to be reviewed, and also the hadith a day. So we have 6 hadith a week. So, that's why we have to do some work, inshallah ta'ala, and the verses of the Quran that are covered with the meanings of the hadith and the meanings of the ayat, and the books that are covered, which is we have fiqh and aqidah only for the time being, mandatory knowledge, but with studying. And of course, for those who are taking the Arabic, is from 9 to 1, inshallah ta'ala. And also the exam will be Saturday on a weekly basis, inshallah. So seeking help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala so that we do the best we can, inshallah. Seeking rewards from Allah. Anything? Thanks.
Question, do you have anything like a short summary, like we call it 101 or something like Tajweed, like for all of us to have at least a basic, I know it will be corrected and others, but for somebody like a 2-hour, 4-hour, any booklet, anything very basic.
Yes, with the qawaid, with the rules of Tajweed, there are, of course, many things that are written, very short, very precise. And we should have really a lecture or more, not just to correct the recitation. One of the ways to do that is with the recitation or every day, something is mentioned. Qaida is mentioned to be applied. And this is what is, inshallah ta'ala, to be planned. So that, for example, for the first week, we'll take one qaida to apply, but with the condition that the verses are still recited correctly, but to study as far as the tajweed is concerned, like in theory, this qaida or this principle. Qawaid tajweed, you can get it all in 2 hours lecture, most of it. But then the rest of it is the practice of recitation and the letters and things like this. So that's why, inshallah, we'll go through the whoever wants to, we can do that also as a lecture, but it's not going to be, you can just take notes, but then you have to always refer back to the notes when you're applying. So it's the same thing. So we can do lectures of Tajweed, inshallah ta'ala, but Allahu A'lam, if we start the week or something with a principle that we take, and then we apply it, and we have to memorize the principle with the rulings of it. And one of the books Tuhafat al-Atfar or something, where also the beginner in the path of knowledge, they would memorize, but it's in Arabic. So it's always good also to memorize it, or to get the meaning of it in that stage till we get to memorize it, inshallah. I'm sure if there's any questions here. Okay. Today there's no, today and tomorrow, inshallah, only this week. There's no classes in the morning, inshallah. There's the test today, inshallah. And tomorrow there's no also regular class in the morning. Starting Monday, inshallah.
Like, these are the effort we are making towards journey towards ilm and towards Allah, like what you said. Can you elaborate, like definitely we may take all the asbab what you said, but it is not Allah that who guide and who misguide people. It is not the Allah that He's testing at the same time us, because the nur ultimately come from Allah, which descend here. These are the asbab we are taking. Right. Because the real ilm, when the Allah, this is time, suppose I'm studying very busy, but some call come, and that's either ilm is in action, that more nasi Allah, because it's not just the theory Allah will teach. Nur is some call come, and I'm busy studying, and that you have to understand also. Can you elaborate? This is the call. I should leave this and respond to that call, or at the same time, some call Allah will tell from shaitan too. And shaitan will call us too. And that moment, I should not leave this place. That mood, can you elaborate this? Because otherwise, we'll be lost. We're just studying, and there's nothing in our life. There will be some, but really the true guidance will not come. Can you elaborate on the mood?
Now, the light, the ilm, and the light that comes as a result of that, and what is in the heart of the fear of Allah, and the light of the ilm, would guide the person definitely to act upon what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us. And that's the barakah of the ilm. And when it comes to this subject specifically, there are general terms for us to understand, but it's one of the things that you have to leave yourself to the ilm to purify you and to make you act according to what Allah wants from us. It's like when we're, the ilm, as mentioned, it's in the heart. And the heart, no one knows the ways that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide the hearts. So therefore, it's not going to be known yet for a person. You cannot give someone what he's going to find in his heart in the real sense of it, unless it's a personal experience. But we have the means to do it so that the person would have it. So therefore, to humble oneself to the ilm with the intention of all of what has been mentioned, for example, in this week, to apply this ilm, to have the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to have the sincerity and the sidq, that we want to apply this and to seek help from Allah, because it's all from Allah. So that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will put this light in our hearts so that we act upon it. Then a person would be able to see and to act, whether a call comes or someone else, what is the right in our life and how to observe it. And it's okay to make mistakes while a person is doing this, and that's why to be corrected and to ask the people of knowledge in these matters. And at the end, this is all from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as we said, al-ilm istifa. Al-ilm is a person is chosen. So therefore, can never be attained unless a person seeks help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala while taking whatever means Allah gives us. No. Allah musta'an. صلى الله وسلم وبارك محمد وصحبه وسلم. سبحانك اللهم ربنا وبحمدك اشهد ان لا اله الا انت استغفرك واتوب اليك.